Some moving parts here, so let's get more perspective from CCTV commentator Saruhan Hatipoglu. He's joining us now on the set. And first of all, let me ask you, what are you hearing from the folks you know there in the country?
Well, everybody is safe, friends, family, but there's a lot of conflicting reports that are coming in. It's still too early, and what we're hearing is that the coup, what it started like a coup, is actually tapering off. There are different areas where the number of soldiers declined dramatically, and the police is taking over slowly those areas. So we're watching by the minute. There's something new happening every second almost. Let's
talk about the speed of all of this. It was about 4 hours ago we started to get reports that bridges were closed, the airport's under control, these jets down low buzzing. And then within 4 hours, it looks like, if these reports are correct, the people took to the streets and things turned in another direction. Talk to me about just the speed of all of this. It's pretty amazing, isn't it?
Now, the speed is very interesting in that you mentioned that, because I've talked to some people in Turkey as this was unfolding, and they told me that they were pretty skeptical. They told me this could actually be something that the government is doing to get more support from the people. In that, as you said, the airports were taken over, right? The main areas, the TV state broadcast was taken over, but nobody went into the parliament. Nobody went into major AK Party players. They did not arrest them. So they're saying, well, this started like a funny resistance. And then people said it was a coup. But what we're seeing now, especially after President Erdogan gave his message through social media, people started going to the streets. And they've taken over now. They're demonstrating, from what I hear from Istanbul, they're demonstrating with Turkish flags on top of tanks in some areas. So it's really still too early what's going on, but there is something that started as a resistance that did not take hold. And there are people now saying in Turkey that this is a government ploy. Erdogan is going to come tomorrow and say, I'm still here. And you see that we have so many dangers here. I have to be the president. I'm going to change the constitution.
You know, help us with the history of this country, though, because coups are really nothing new. There's been other coups in the past.
There have been, but it has been 36 years that a coup has not taken place. And Turkey prides itself in that, because it's top 20 economies in the world. It's a big market. A lot of stability is needed in the country. So when a military takeover takes place, whether it's good or not, people argue about this. Oh, the military had to come in, or no, they shouldn't have come in, democratically elected government. But whatever the outcome is, like, who suffers is that the people, eventually, because the economy goes pretty bad. The dollar is already, I think, $1 US, Turkish lira is at $3, 3 liras now, $1 US. So things are happening pretty bad already in economic terms. So whatever the outcome of this is, I think Turkish people are going to lose in the short term.
Let's see if we can. I'd like to go back to those live pictures that we were just showing, because it's an amazing illustration of how quickly things have changed, because we just saw all those cars. Here they are. I can tell you, when I first went on the air earlier, all of these bridges seemed to be blocked. There were military vehicles there, tanks, nobody on the streets. Of course, it is still very early in the morning. It's not even 3 a.m. in Turkey, but now look at this. It's amazing to watch. Again,
yes,
quite a change.
Again, the president took onto social media and said, you've got to go outside and stand up for democracy. Now, one may look at it and say, well, that's a great thing. People are standing up for democracy there. But let us remember that there was a substantial portion of the army in critical places, and they declared martial law. That means they could shoot at people. So for a president to say, go out in the streets and celebrate democracy, I don't know how responsible that was. And there's still, there's news coming in that there's some shootings that took place. 15 to 16 police officers dead in Ankara. Haven't been confirmed yet, but I'm hearing these things from social media. So we're not seeing everything yet, but certainly this doesn't look like a coup to me.
And speaking of democracy, the initial word coming from the military was the reason they were doing this is they want a better democracy. Of course, Erdogan has been accused of having a rather tight-fisted kind of authoritarian rule, kind of cramping down on the free press. Give me your thoughts on all of that.
Well, I've been on CCTV programs before on Turkey, and I have, though I mentioned some good economic measures that were taken by the AK Party earlier, I've criticized it quite a bit. And the reason that I criticize, Mike, is that checks and balances, something that Turkish people are very proud of, their democracy have been systematically dismantled by the AK Party, President Erdogan. Opposition has been marginalized. People are completely polarized in Turkey. If the last election, I can give you an example, the people who didn't vote for AK Party didn't get any rights. The services that they needed to have in their towns, cities, didn't get the services, didn't get enough money. So othering the opposition is what Mr. Erdogan, President Erdogan, has been doing for the past 5 years. Now, on top of everything else, the security conditions deteriorated in Turkey. And we've witnessed how many bombings in the past month and a half. And I've grown up in Turkey. I've lived with bombings, but it was in the southeast area, far away from major cities like Istanbul and Ankara. Now, almost every week, something is happening in big cities, and people are very upset with that too.
Let me ask you this, and again, we've been looking at these pictures, remarkable pictures. His accusation that this Islamic cleric in self-imposed exile living here in the United States, in the state of Pennsylvania. His former
best buddy,
yes,
by the way.
Exactly. Yes. Give us some background on that. And it seems like whenever there's anything that looks bad, this is the first thing that comes out of his mouth, that it's this guy's fault. Talk to us about all of this.
Well, he labels it the parallel structure. That's a very famous. If a general goes to jail, it says parallel structures general. If the media says something, parallel structures media. Yes, there is a tug of war between these individuals, and they used to be very good friends. They've actually, Mr. Gulen helped AK Party to get to power, but whatever the reason is, there was a fallout. It was mostly about policies, but for a president or for a government to use a parallel structure as an excuse to everything. I mean, look at, if there's a coup attempt right now, if as a government you're allowing a parallel structure, quote unquote, do this, then you're not a strong government. Right? You have to fight a parallel structure. You have to be a government. You have to protect your people. You have to make sure your people get the basic needs. People need to be able to go out in the streets. They don't need to be around places where bombs are taking place. So if this parallel structure is really this strong, then as a government, you failed. That's the way I'm looking at it.
And we're getting reports now, we're hearing reports, haven't been confirmed just yet, that there's been a blast near Parliament, some explosions. So clearly, the reports that this is over, one would think if that's going on, that's not the case. I mean, that there's still some pockets of problems there in the country.
Right before I came in, I heard about the Parliament bombing. I wasn't able to confirm it. But if that's happening, that is telling me that, like you said, the pockets are still doing some resistance. But let us also remember that this is taking place at the lower level of the military, because none of the army chiefs or none of the generals came out and said, we're supporting this. Rule of law has to be observed in Turkey. And when they said, actually, the army commanders said rule of law, they were talking about how rule of law was violated under Erdogan. So they are looking at this coup and saying, well, we have to establish that. But I'm not seeing the support from the higher-ups. And when there's not support coming in from the higher-ups in a military resistance or a coup d'etat, it usually fails. So we're watching.
Let me ask one final question before we let you go. Let's say things break Erdogan's way. He returns to the capital. They're able to squash this attempt at a coup. What does that do for his control? Will he tighten things even further? I mean, that's been the concern here. I mean, what's best case scenario, worst case scenario as you look at it from your vantage point here in Washington, D.C.?
He has been losing some support based on the bombings that we talked about in Turkey. So he has his grand idea of changing the constitution in a way that the president will rule the country, not the prime minister, not the executive, the Turkish democracy, a parliamentary system. He wants to bring in American style of politics in Turkey, but with regions, so many different regions, so many different problems, a lot of people in Turkey are against that. Now he has an opportunity to come and say, people support me, democracy has won. We told you we would crush this. And then he would try to get more support from that. And then I think he will call either a referendum or, again, something in the parliament and take more further steps to pass this new constitution, giving him more powers. And that's what I'm personally afraid of.
Saruhan, always a delight having you on the broadcast. Thank you.